In just 10 years, India managed to lift more people out of poverty than the entire population of Russia. How did this happen? And what might it mean for the rest of the world?
Today is May 23rd, 2025. Let's start with the data. The World Bank's latest figures show that between 2011-12 and 2022-23, India lifted 171 million people out of extreme poverty. That's a drop in extreme poverty rates from 16.2% to just 2.3%.
Exactly. And if we look at the lower middle income poverty line, which is $3.65 a day, the change is even bigger. In 2011-12, about 62% of people were below that level. By 2022-23, it's down to 28%. So 378 million people moved above that line.
Those are striking figures. But what about the differences between rural and urban areas? Historically, rural poverty in India has been much higher than urban. Did that gap narrow?
It did. That's actually a key part of the story. In rural areas, extreme poverty fell from 18.4% down to 2.8%. In cities, it dropped from 10.7% to just 1.1%. The rural-urban gap went from 7.7 percentage points to only 1.7. That's a rapid convergence.
So development is reaching villages as well as cities. But is this only about people earning more money?
No, it's not just about income. India took a multidimensional approach. The progress isn't only about higher incomes. The World Bank points out major reductions in deprivations, like better access to education, improved health, and more reliable basic services. For example, the Jan Dhan Yojana expanded financial inclusion, and there were big investments in rural infrastructure and healthcare.
So, real improvements in quality of life, not just statistics. But what actually drove this progress? Was it mostly economic growth?
Economic growth was a big driver, especially with job creation. Employment actually grew faster than the working-age population. But it wasn't just market forces. Targeted government measures mattered too. Welfare programs, expanding education and healthcare, sanitation projects. It was the combination of reforms and direct support that really made the difference.
Let's talk about the reliability of these numbers. There's been some debate about survey methods in India. How solid is this data?
Good point. The figures come from large national surveys, like the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey. There has been discussion about some methodology changes, but India's moving toward multidimensional poverty indices. That means they're not just relying on income, but also looking at health, education, and other indicators. Using global standards and transparent reporting adds credibility. Still, some experts say more frequent data would help.
How about the global perspective? Does India's progress shift the overall fight against poverty worldwide?
It definitely does. India is now the world's most populous country, so its progress has a big impact on global poverty statistics. But it's not just about numbers. India's example shows that with sustained policy action, a mix of economic reforms and targeted welfare, dramatic reductions in poverty are possible, even at this scale. Other countries can look to this as a model.
Are there risks? Is this progress likely to last?
There are always risks, like economic shocks or some regions lagging behind. But the broad, multidimensional approach means setbacks are less likely, as long as inclusive growth remains a priority.
So in summary, India's reduction in poverty is real, multidimensional, and globally important. It's not just about moving people above a line, it's about true change in daily life.
Exactly. It shows how targeted policies, economic growth, and inclusive development can work together. It sets a new benchmark for global poverty reduction.
That's our look at India's poverty transformation, a story of scale, strategy, and real-world results. Thanks for listening. This episode is brought to you by mynews.studio. Try it now for free.